Hi, I'm Russ Segner. We put this series together to feature narrow gauge layouts, seldom seen because they are not located in cities where we normally visit for national narrow gauge conventions. Thanks to the organizing committee of Jerry Cornwell, Pete Smith, Mark Lachey, Dave Adams, and Jeff Schultz. Information on this program is available at NNG at groups.io. We hope you will join us. So now for our program. Good afternoon, everyone. Today we're going to hear from Doug Ramos, who's going to present his On3 layout, the Poverty Gulch and Opulence Railroad. Doug, it is an opportunity for you to share your beautiful work with all of us.
I'd just like to thank everybody for being here and hope you enjoy it. My railroad, I started building it in 2002. I wanted like a mining themed railroad, no exact prototype, just set in the maybe 30s to 40s era, a basic concept of a mining district and a place to, set cars and move them around and run full loads back to the mill, which on my railroad, I didn't want to take all the space to build an O-scale mill because those things are huge and I don't have the room for that. So I have a track that's kind of a fictitious line out to the mill, but there's a yard at either end with turntables. It's point to point. There you can see on the track plan there. So I have some, passing tracks and places to set cars. And, the real reason I built this railroad was just for the modeling experience. I don't really have operating sessions. I just enjoy running trains and I play around moving cars and doing things like that. But the main reason was just the enjoyment of building a railroad and, the structures and scenery and everything that goes along with it. This first photograph is the mining district. I wanted a theme that was sort of like maybe a Leadville concept where there's a town that's kind of popped up in between all the mines. Right there in the foreground, you can see the Leverite mine, which in actuality is the Van Winkle mine in Colorado. And in the upper left, there's a scratch-built mine there. I scratch-built that mine, and a lot of the other structures are kits. Here's a view of the little downtown area. I'm sure you probably recognize some of these structures. I've got downtown, Stony Creek Designs, some of their kits. There's a Tom York kit there in the front. And then there's some scratch built structures in there too. Here's a view of that scratch built mine. And it runs over to the ore goes out into a two bin ore bin for servicing. And there's another view of it. I've got a little Berkshire Valley wagon there that I built in front with some horses. And then this is another view of the same area. It's more of a longer open view of it. Can see more of the town. There's another mine in the center there that was an old classic miniatures kit. It was called the Lucky Mine, and I reconfigured it. And I put a little steam engine in it and a boiler outside under a shed, and just kind of changed it up. And this area is actually a redone part of my railroad. The original railroad didn't have this section on it. It was different. It was very simple, and I had no place to put cars or operate at all. And I wanted to improve that. So I rebuilt this whole part of the railroad and added some. I scratch built using, I did the stone walls on the end and on the foundations out of pink foam. Did some hand carving to create that. and then the rest of it's basswood and the usual stuff. Here's a view of the turntable, and these were, I think, from Valley Car Works. I think Lee Kloss did these a long time ago. I always liked them. So they're simple, Armstrong turntables. They're not, electrified or anything like that as far as motor control. The large hand from the sky comes down and turns it. And then there's another view of you can see the engine house a little better. And it's a Backwoods Miniatures crane that I built. And over just to the left, there's a little structure there that's a small machine shop. It's got a boiler and a 1-lung steam engine in there to run the overhead belts for it. It's just like 3 machines in there for small repairs at this end of the operation. There's like an old combine used for storing equipment and tools and such. And there's a donkey there in front that this one was the car was from another one of Roger's kits, Stony Creek. It was in a depot kind of a scene, but I took it out and put it here by itself. And then the little tower was scratch built too. And here's another view of it with a scratch built a fuel bin with wood and coal. Nothing fancy, no big old coaling tower. And then there's a couple of cars. Here's another view of the engine house closer up in front. I used Grant Line windows for the windows on this. And as I said, the stonework was hand carved and created with, acrylics and stuff like that. This little scene, a friend of mine, Ray Sadler, I don't know if any of you know him, but he owned this little car and then he detailed it, and I was able to talk him out of it one day. But and then the 2 structures in back are from someone I've never met. He was from Arizona, and he built this shed and the little gas. There's a gas pump in the other shed there. And I thought they were beautifully done. And so I was able to get them from this collection that John Ingstrom had. And I just thought they were really nicely done. So I put them there on the railroad. And then there's a closer view of the Lucky Mine. And I did some of the cribbing work using dowels, scraped them to texture them and built them up, put them on styrene backing, and then, glued them in and scenicked around them. This is this is a mine structure from Stony Creek's design kit. That's right at the end of the mining district as you leave the area. And there's a vehicle and a couple of like the roller on there that were from McKenzie. And then those little flat cars were scratch built, and that 5 stamp was a Wild West kit, and it makes a really kind of a neat car load. And then on the right in the next picture, it names it, but that is the Atlantic cable mine, and that was a Wild West kit. The only thing it didn't have was a hoist shed, so I built that on the end. And then of course I set it in there with some cribbing so it would be above the track. And then this is basically the end of the district. And then these are I wanted it to have some scenery, you know, to create some distance. Of course, when you only have so much space in a 21 by 13 room, you know, we all would like to have more space, but this is how it works. So you just try to create what you can with the space you have. And I tried to have some scenery from the mine district all the way around to the other side of the railroad. This is Poverty Gulch, or part of Poverty Gulch. And that's a little scratch-built trestle there that goes over it. The figures in front there, the horses, were from Aspen. And you know, I hand painted those, and the aspen trees themselves were all from Trees in Seconds or Minutes, or I can't remember the name of it, but it's Scenic Express, I think, where I got them, and just the armatures. And then of course you have to paint them and put the leaves and everything. And all the conifers, all the pine trees, I would say 80% of them were hand built. I made them from balsa wood trunks and Caspia fern, and then colored them, and then used flocking for the greenery on them. You know, I don't know about you guys, but when I'm out and about, you know, I worked outside, and I was on a road quite a bit, and you always see things that you can find that work for little pieces of scenery on your railroad. And it's funny how people look at you funny when you're picking things up like that. But the rocks and all the decomposed granite came from Big Bear area where I live here, in this near the San Bernardino Mountains. And some of these are all real rock. And then, you know, a lot of the rock work is casting plaster with acrylic stains and washes. And there's a picture that shows a lot of that rock work, and then some of the natural stone that I found. And there's another picture coming around a kind of a canyon, and then it comes out through like a little hogback tunnel and then out onto this trestle. And there's another view of it. You can see the little tunnel there in the rock work. And then a lot of the trees that I made. Some of the smaller ones up above I bought from I think, I can't even remember the name of the gentleman I got them from. I think they're not in business anymore. And then this area, the Yankee Girl mine, I got this kit, and I liked this mine so much that I wanted to find an area to be able to show it. And so I built a little kind of an add-on section for this little scene with a couple of miners' cabins, and there's a dynamite shed in front. And I modified this kit a little bit by just making it, instead of the laser cut walls that it had, I did a board on board over the top of it to give more variation to the way the wood looked on the mine. And I really like this mine quite a bit. And then this is further down the line. You can still see the mine on the left, and then there's a loading ramp and a small dock there for the bags of ore to be loaded onto the train. And in the lower right, you can see a bridge. And this is, you know, another part of Poverty Gulch, Poverty Creek. And you know, I built this from a kit, and for the life of me, I can't remember name of the manufacturer, and I apologize for that, but it was a fun kit to build, and I found this spot to put it. This scene has a lot of what I was talking about before, finding, natural elements out there. Some of these little logs were from mulch that, you find by a freeway or something, where they have these huge areas where they throw all this mulch, and then the hard water that we have here and the sun turns them gray, and they have a nice aged look. So they make a good looking dead log or dead fallen tree. And then this is a view. You can see the bridge there before coming into Opulence, and it's kind of like a above view. And there's the depot's on the left, and then if you look on the right, there's a kind of a corner here. And this section, there's about 4 structures there that I built, and I wanted to put them somewhere. And of course, I didn't have room. So I thought, well, add this little section onto the front of the railroad and make another, extended the street going through town. So you can kind of see that there. And the next picture, I think, shows the structures closer. Yeah, there's the depot. That was a, I want to say builders and scale kit, but I could be wrong. But it's the Jefferson Depot. And I've always liked that structure. So I used it for mine. And then here's those little structures I was talking about. The 2 little buildings on the left, the Weekly Record, and then there's a bail bonds building there. Those are pink foam, carved pink foam. And then the cornice on the one building, I found this molding in a doll shop. It was like for crown molding in a doll house, but I thought it made a good looking cornice on a structure. So I used that, and I stole those, the sign from Main Street Heritage kit. And then the little one on the right there is the same. And then the walls on the side they're like a stone wall, and those were also carved the same way. And of course, all the windows and doors are Grant Line. And then the next 2 structures there were York kits, which are always interesting and fun to build. And you can see the deciduous trees in there. Those were made from sagebrush armatures, and then using those Senior Express, the trees that they have, I made branches out of them. And then they used to call them, they used to call them the old check punch outs, but they're similar, but they're not that. And they're dyed, and those are on there, glued on there to make, for the leaves. And then this is another part of the downtown street area. There's another York kit there, the bank. I think that apothecary structure across the track on the left, the yellow structure, I think that's a Banta, if I'm not mistaken. And there's a Bar Mills tavern there that I compressed. There's a lot of neat structures you can do, but man, you have to some of them you have to compress to fit in your spaces, because in those scale, they're pretty good size structures. And the Rusty Spur Saloon there, right on the corner, you can see that has, I think that was a Wild West kit. There's so many of them, I don't remember them all, but it's right on the corner, right in front. So I put lighting in it and added, some card players, and I got a bar, and another little goodie I found at at a doll place was wallpaper, scale wallpaper. So I even put some wallpaper in that thing. But that was fun to do. And then here's the other side of the street. This was this service station and garage was, I think, a radio repair place that Stony Creek, one of his earlier kits that he came out with. And I put an overhang on it and made it into a service station and a garage, automobile garage. I actually have a good amount of Stony Creek kits on this layout. I think that firehouse is one, and so is the J. Hunter Mercantile on the right there. And there's another view of the apothecary. That store, I hand lettered the sign. Is before I figured out how to make some stencils and different things. But I hand lettered that, and then I detailed the inside of that too with it's got a lot of jars and bottles, and some of them I was able to take like a rod of lucite and put them in a Dremel tool, and then with an X-Acto knife I kind of lathed them and turned out some bottles. Somewhere at a convention I found somebody that had a bunch of them that were cast in styrene and color, so they're in there also. And then there's a closer view of that mercantile shop. It's right on the front of the railroad, so I felt like it would be advantageous to put some storefront stuff in there. So I made some storefront windows with display in there, and it kind of adds a little flavor there to the structure. And this is a bar mills structure that also was compressed, and I put lighting in it and an interior. It's got a bunch of crates with vegetables and fruits, and I took this little truck that's sitting in front. That was a 1/48 scale kit from, I want to say it might be a Czechoslovakian or Russian kit of a Model A, and it was an ambulance, and so I altered it and made a fruit truck out of it, produce truck, which was fun. And then these two little structures in the back, I think one of them was originally a York kit, and Brandline came out with them in resin. It's a dentist, that one. And then on the left, it's another one of Roger's little kits. And then on the right, the warehouse structure there, that's from Sierra West. He had a series of kits that he did in HO, and I think it was a railroad camp or something like that, but this was one of the structures, and he decided to do it in O scale. So I found a place to put it. And in the foreground, you can see some ore cars. Yeah, those are old tourist kits. And then this is the engine house, the main engine house, 2-stall engine house at the other end, of Opulence there in the yard. And I scratch built this structure completely, and that's the back side of it. And it's got a little crane on the back there. That was a real interesting kit. And then this is the side of it. The windows there that you see with the lighting in it, that's the machine shop. And to the right, you can see a little overhang there, and that's where the boiler and steam engine is to drive the overhead belt system. And it's got a full machine shop inside. And then there's the inside of the engine house, the main part of it. And there's a lot of Mount Albert basswood in that structure. And on the right, you can just sort of see the overhead belt supports. I thought Jerry would like that. And then here's another view where you can see down into the machine shop. I don't know how well you can see the machinery, but there's, I forgot how many, maybe 6, 7 machines in there. And those were, I think those were, God, I can't remember what the original producer of those kits, but Sierra West got them and redid them, and in a different metal instead of that Cerebon. And then, oh yeah, CHB. Thank you, Jerry. And so there's a bunch of those in there. And I did all the belts and the pulleys and everything else. It was quite a project. It was like building a ship in a bottle almost, but a pretty rewarding project. And then this view is kind of neat. It's from the back door of the main engine house, looking through the openings into the machine shop. And you can see the overhead belt system in there, and you can see one of the drill press, tall drill presses there, and a small grinder. I brought this structure, and there's the roofing, the trusses. That was quite an undertaking. But I boxed this thing and put it in the back of a truck with a tonneau cover, and drove it from California to Colorado Springs to enter it in the contest. And we went to see, off-roading on dirt roads and all kinds of stuff. And I kept thinking, oh man, this thing's going to be a kit by the time we get there in pieces. And lo and behold, the thing made it all in one piece, except for one little stack on the office fell off. But yeah, I was pretty happy that it made it there in one piece, and I was fortunate enough to get a first place structures for it, and Bob Brown picked it for the Gazette Award. So that was really pretty neat honor to get. And there's looking down, you can see down looking into the shop. We've got a lathe, and I don't know what else is in that thing. I made that metal table with some tin siding and rolled it out to make it flat, and then put it over a piece of basswood. And then there's another view, the front view of it, and then you can see a little water tank there that I scratch built, and that was another pink foam stone base that I carved. And then there's an old Valley Car Works combine sitting there too. And then there's the other end of the operation, the other turntable. You can see, I think it was a Classic Miniatures kit, the fuel tower, the oil tank there on the right, just to the right there. And then you can't really see it, but there's a coaling bin over there with a crane that runs it. And then this is a part of a tractor repair, car repair scene that I did on the front corner. It sits there on the corner next to the engine house. And this was another one of Brett's kits from Sierra West. And it came with this tractor. It's a resin casting. I mean, it's like, it's a bunch of pieces, but it's pretty neat casting. And then you can see part of the structure there on the left. And then this is a repair structure itself. And there's another tractor inside. It's a pretty detailed little building. It's got you know, a bunch of shelves and, you know, everything. And then on the left, there's a blacksmith's hearth there. Can't really see it all, but you can kind of see where the top of it is on the left corner. And then this is another view of it kind of from the front. The track leading into it doesn't really go anywhere, but I put it there to display the cars and, you know, give the illusion that it does go somewhere. And there's a small little Plymouth switcher there. And then I had a scene for chopping wood for fuel. And there's a little shed in the back there for, you know, for tools and such. But that was another one of Brett's little kits. And I don't know if any of you guys ever built Sierra West kits, but they're really fun to build, and they're board on board type structures. So, you know, they take a little while, but they have a lot of character. And this is kind of an overview of the end of you know, the other end of the yard. And you can kind of see just above this there's a little shed here, a line side shed, a tool shed. And just above it, you can see the little crane and the coal there sitting there. Yeah. And then on the left, you can see a sanding tower. And I think that was from Joe Fuss. And of course, I shortened the sand bin and everything else on it to, you know, to help it fit in the scene where I had space to put it. But that kit went together really nicely. And then this is in the corner, a very far corner, and that I copied from a Sierra West kit that he did in HO, and I tried to talk him into doing it in no scale, and he never bid on the idea. So I decided I'll just scratch build it. And I always liked that little structure, and I thought I'm going to do it. So once again, it's got the pink foam, carved pink foam base, and then all the like shiplap and everything I did board on board. And you know, it's got a lot of detail around it. On the left side, you can't really see it that well, but there's a little loading crane, and there's a flat area, a dock, where all the supplies kind of sit, and, you know, piping and different plumbing supplies. And that's basically the end of the deal. And then this is another view of the gas station there. So yeah, I hope there's enough. I don't know. I described it well enough. I know I could spend forever describing other stuff, but just try to keep it simple.
Doug,
Thanks,
I
Derek.
like that your machine shop has a rack full of raw materials. That's something a lot of people leave out.
Oh, thank you.
Say, Doug, one of the
would-
questions on the chat room was, how do you get the rock effect from the pink phone?
Oh, you know, it's just the pink foam. I get it at Home Depot, and it's extruded aluminum. I mean, extruded foam for insulating, and it's not the beaded foam. I'm sure you guys are familiar with it, but it's a dense, real dense material, and it lends itself really well to carving and you know, so I get it in 2x2 sheets, I think. And then what I do is I splice it, because if you're gonna, like I did one structure in a diorama, a machine shop, and I carved the inside and the outside. And so if you want to scale width wall, you have to kind of, you know, cut the width on it. You have to kind of rip it, in other words. And then what I do is I just basically start carving stonework with an X-Acto blade. You know, I just run the horizontal courses like you would lay stone, and just try to picture, you know, how someone would do it, and overlap the joints. And then, you know, I would carve away a little bit of the face on some of them, and then some of them I would take little pieces and glue it on to give it more of a 3D effect. And then after that, I gesso the foam, and so it can receive paint. And I just use acrylic colors. When I first started doing it, I was using polyscale, and of course they're long gone, because it was a good acrylic line and they had some good colors. But then I just started using, you know, regular acrylic artist acrylic paints, and did it that way. And then I would shoot some dull coat over it, or a sealer, and then come back with a kind of like a grout almost of gesso and some black, because gesso's white, and then the black makes like a gray color. And then I would rub it all over it and try to get it in all the joints and everything. And then wipe it off with a paper towel that was damp, you know, with water. And that's basically, you know, that's basically how I did it.
Really looks good.
Thank you.
Is your track hand laid?
No, my track is not hand laid. I used Code 83 precision scale flex track. I did hand lay all the turnouts and all the trestles and the bridge. So there is some of it that is hand laid, but I don't know if I could do it well enough to make it reliable. You know, it's tricky enough to do turnouts. So, although I use fast track jigs and those things work great. If anybody just wants to do their own turnouts, I recommend using those. I'm sure a lot of you guys have done that, but they work really well.
Dave Burrows wants to know whether you got a 2.5 foot or is it 3 foot gauge?
It's 3 foot gauge. And, you know, I didn't mention, I run geared locomotives because of the size of the railroad. And I wanted, you know, geared locomotives take a lot longer to get around the layout, and it just gives you more an illusion of distance with this, you know, the way they run. And so I've got a handful of Shays, and I've got a number 2 Westside Heisler, and some, you know, a couple of Climax locomotives, and you know, they're fun to play with. And you know, I even tried my hand at scratch or kit building a Shay from a PSC kit, and that was a lot of fun. But it ended up coming out okay, and it runs. The great thing about this hobby is there's so many different aspects to it that, you know, if you want to try something different, you just do, you know, just pick something. There's electronics, there's track work, there's scenery, structures, locomotives. I mean, there's everything. So I think that's what makes it an interesting hobby.
Doug, could you describe the paint and the painting techniques you used on that backwoods miniature crane?
I like to use I just use an airbrush, and I like to use Tamiya paints because they go on really nice. Yeah, I primer everything with some, you know, gray primer, and then I shot all the the truck and everything with an airbrush. But one of the techniques I use, it's kind of hard to see in this picture, but there's ways of doing rust. It's kind of interesting. I did a painted the whole thing brown with rust color. And then you take water, a brush and water, and brush it over the whole model, and then sprinkle salt onto it. And then when it dries, the salt kind of sticks to it, and then come back with your color and shoot the color over it. And when it's dry, you rub the salt away, and it makes some really interesting patterns, with, to make rust. And then, you can use chalks and washes and different things to elaborate, on that technique. I don't know if you guys have ever tried the hairspray technique, but that's another great one, where you do the same thing and then put hairspray down. And then when it dries, you shoot your color over it, and then you can take a wet brush or even a toothpick and start picking away at the areas you want to have rust coming out. And it wears down, the water kind of dissolves the hairspray, and you can do some really nice chipping effects with that technique also.
Is that common table salt that you use in that technique?
Yeah, it's his table salt. Yep. And, because of the size of it, you don't want too big. You can get a little carried away. And if you have too big of a chunk of salt, it doesn't look right on a model, it's just too big. And so table salt works great because it's not very, the granules are small. And then if you want some areas to be a little, have a little bit bigger chip, you just kind of sprinkle a couple more pieces in there. And it really is a random kind of a technique. And I think that's kind of what makes it look pretty good.
Hey, Doug, how did you get the salt to adhere?
I just brushed the model with water. You just brush water onto it. Not a lot, but just enough where the salt will stick to it.
Doug, would you describe your rusty roof there, and whether you use chalks to do that or pan pastels? Just how you do your rusty roof?
On this one, I did. I used some pan pastels. This roof was some of Stony Creek's vellum. I think he's got a different material now that he makes the stuff with, and he's got different colors. And he had like a dark brown color that I liked, so I just used that, and then I kind of dry brush it a little bit with some gray to kind of make it look like it's not quite as old as pure brown rust. And then there's pan pastels or pigment, chalk pigments. I used to do the etchant when I first started doing this one. Before there were other materials, you had those everybody, a bunch of people did them, Builders and Scale and Campbell's, and the aluminum roofing. And then some of them worked better than others, but I used to etch them, and that technique worked really well. But after a while, pretty tedious, and the gases will kill you that come off of it.
When you designed your layout, did you design it for did you say, okay, I've got a whole lot of structures, I want to lay them out, or did you design the track plan and say, I'll leave space for structures? Like, which came first, the cart or the horse?
Say for instance, up in the right-hand corner here in the town of Opulence, I knew I wanted a curved street to kind of draw your eye up. There's a hill. It's not really drastic, but there's a little grade that goes up. And I wanted something to draw the eye up around the corner. And so I kind of had that idea that in that corner, that's what I wanted. The other end where the mining district is, I wanted the mines to be, I placed my mines and kind of knew where I wanted them to go with the track, the way I designed the track. And then I kind of fit the structures in. And I knew I had to have space to put the road in and everything, but I wanted to give the feel of a town just popping up, in a mining district, kind of around all the different mines that were there. So it's more or less how I figured that one out. I have a friend, his name's Ray Sadler. I've mentioned him before, but when it comes to mining, the guy really has a great mind for laying out track and this kind of stuff where you set structures. And he helped me set this area out. You know, I didn't really build my railroad for operation, so I kind of, you know, I knew I wanted, I mean, I like building structures, and I think that's kind of why a lot of this is here, you know, to create an area or try to I just tried to create a, you know, an environment where there's, you know, it looks like there's a town and, you know, scenery and everything. And then of course, yeah, you got to have track because it's a railroad, but I never really, I wasn't, and to tell you the truth, it's the main reason why my first version of this layout, I had to tear 1/3 of it out, because there was one end of the railroad just didn't have anywhere, you know, to set cars. I had one little siding and one little passing track, and you could put maybe 2 cars, 3 at the most. And it, you know, it just wasn't designed well at all. And so that's why I changed that whole side of the railroad. So I had more places to set cars and, you know, be able to run around trains and move stuff. So.
Sure. Well, I really enjoy the operations side of it, but I also really enjoy modeling. So this is, it's really inspiring. I think you've done a fantastic job. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I love to model, and I do like operating too. It's just not my favorite thing, but you know, when I go to somebody's house that's really into operating, I really appreciate it. And you know, like Dave Adams, it's always fun to go there, and he puts a controller in your hand and it's like, oh no. But it is, it's I always enjoy it. Well, I appreciate everybody's indulgence, and you know, you're all welcome.
We hope you enjoyed this. We look forward to seeing you again. The next session will be posted on the group's IO NNG several days before the next program. Look for the link there.